What's up, everybody? Excited to be here. Obviously, had a lot of transition. I know that a lot of you guys have been asking along the way, and I appreciate the patience, trying to give you as much as I could. I really kind of attacked it in a couple different waves. I knew, obviously, kind of even going into the bowl game about that, I knew I was going to have the transition there. Obviously, the situation popped up with Dish, and so I really concentrated on the offense side of the ball. And then really, as I made the transition, hired Bobby, I knew that I was going to be able to pyramid, and a main goal there was to try and add a person at every layer of our defense that had either worked under Bobby or worked with him or in that system. Was a really big driving part of our defensive makeup as we hired coaches. So, two guys right away that I hired were Ronnie Bradford, who was obviously Coach Houck's defensive coordinator before he left and went back to the NFL. It's kind of a unique story. I know he's going to interview with you guys here, but just a really cool story, playing at Colorado when they were a highlight. Shared a story the other day with our team where he actually blocked a PAT in the second quarter in a rematch game that ended up being the difference in a 10-9 game that won him a championship, right? And just the story of that he relayed to our players was phenomenal. And then Roger Cooper, who when Ronnie left and became the defense coordinator and led them the last several years, to have the last two coordinators under this system with Bobby here is just a huge asset. And then was also able to add Jordan Thomas, who had worked under Rocky, had played for Rocky at San Diego State, and then worked with Mike Linehan, who we also added to the defensive line room. So to add two guys up front, I moved Joe Panos into that room as well. So every layer has kind of got someone from the system as well as retaining someone from our old system that kind of gives us a unique perspective at each level. Elderbrock will work with the linebacker room with Coop and Archie, and then in the back end to retain Ryan Simerson and Corey, but also to bring in Ronnie. And then I also brought Robbie Houck, who's Bobby's son, who had 480 tackles in this system, was a three-time All-American, I believe sixth most productive player in FCS history in this system. So to have in that back end with him, it just brings a lot of experience into this world that we're entering into. So response has been absolutely awesome. Super excited to get those guys here. And then also offensively to hire Tyrone Wheatley. Just kind of a cool perspective for me to hire someone that I attempted to tackle at some point in my life. I can't say I was very successful, but just very impressed with Wheat. He actually had come up on my radar a couple times during my career as a potential running back coach. So to have that moment come and the timing of it, I was really kind of almost on the verge of making a hire, and he reached out to me, kind of made quick order of it. He brought him on campus and sat down with my staff and I. Just overwhelmingly positive addition and super excited. He has been a breath of really good knowledge, experience, and understanding of our league. Also, all of our guys hope to go in the NFL. For a guy that played 10 years and coached on 3 different NFL teams, that values and can't put a price tag on it. So really excited. We got this week, got next week. We'll take spring break, and then we'll jump right into spring ball. We'll work on basically Monday evenings, Wednesday mornings, and Friday afternoons, evenings. We did that last year, had a lot of success. Going to adjust our schedule a little bit, but just the timing of bringing in a new defensive system, obviously a new quarterback on offense, regardless of who it plays out being. I just think there's a lot of nuances there that we want to take our time, go over 5 weeks, and do a really good job with our installs. A couple updates. Jake Renfro has been cleared eligibility-wise, so he's all set to go to give us a year of eligibility with him. He's been absolutely awesome. He actually isn't cleared and won't be cleared during spring ball. He's limited with the procedure he had done at the end of his time there at Wisconsin, but expect him to be full go with us in the spring, and really as much experience as he brings. Not really worried about that aspect of it as much as trying to get who our possibilities at center would be besides Jake. And then Aiden Kanopik, unfortunately, is a guy that is going to take is going to take a medical and won't be able to finish out playing career here, but with us in the fall. We're still working through the details of that. On the flip side, Nathan Kanopik looks really good. So really excited about a bunch of guys that have come in January. 21 high school kids in addition to a large number of transfers have been absolutely awesome. We're in week 7 with Tank, and it's been really fun to see that play out. So kind of been fun for me the last couple of weeks to be back on campus and working with our guys. Had a chance to work with them yesterday morning. Had about 45 minutes with them on the field, getting time with them in the classroom now. On Friday, tomorrow morning, if you want to feel for our guys about 6 a.m., we'll put them through the most vigorous physical workout they've been through the entire spring. So I'm sure they're giddy about that. Our coaches will be with them on some mat drills and some station work that we really try to stress those guys. So a really fun time in our building. Obviously, a lot going on with college football. I'm sure a lot of you followed. I sit on the FBOSC football oversight committee and took some legislative action there that hopefully will get pushed forward and really have some accountability in today's world with college football. Just people that maybe operate outside of the world that others of us are trying to stay in. It's no better time in college football to be a part of what we're doing right now, and really fun time. I think it just needs some guardrails, but the opportunity to pay our players and put them in a position financially that they've never been in before to retain our roster. I said, I don't, obviously know Mick very well, but I thought he had an unbelievable. I follow him for pure entertainment, but I saw his idea, kind of the NBA theory of being able to have some additional revenue share to retain players, which I think is absolutely an awesome thing. I think the number one goal of my program is always going to be retention of the players we want. And if we can have some type of system where we can retain our players, not only for our roster development, but also I think one side note that everybody's not talking about is just graduation rates. We've had over 6 straight semesters here of a 3.0 GPA. We stress it in our program. I know important academics is beyond the game of football, so anything that can get us to retain our players and graduate them, I think would be an absolutely awesome thing. And then the other thing that's gaining a lot of weight, and I know our commissioner was a big part of it, just going to a 2014 playoff, which I know certain conferences weren't in favor of at the beginning, but now that everybody's playing 9-game schedule, I think everybody would love to talk about the opportunity to have a 2014 playoff. And now that I see SEC coaches coming out and speaking on the behalf of adopting that same policy, I think it's exciting because I know this in college football right now. If the SEC and the Big Ten can get together and think like-minded instead of opposite-minded and work together, I think we can put college football in a position it's never been before, and that to me is really exciting for a lot of people. So with that, open up for questions.
Right. You talked about adding people that had familiarity with this defense, because you are not the expert of this defense quite yet. So what is the value of having Roger and Ronnie along with Bobby for you as the head coach?
Yeah, it was actually something that I discussed with Bobby early on, was just like, hey, one of the things that I did when I took over as a head coach, we totally transitioned from the system that I was running. So my first year we went 12-1. I hired 2 defense coordinators. Mike Hankiewicz was a longtime defense coordinator at Northwestern. Dave Doran, who's now the head coach at NC State for a long time. I hired those 2 guys to implement a defense that I had never run. And for me as a head coach, I was very important. I learned that one from Barry Alvarez to be a CEO head coach. Don't try to be a coordinator. And so I really kind of operated that way during my entire tenure at Wisconsin. And then when I went from Wisconsin to Arkansas, I retained Chris Ash, who's now the defense coordinator at Notre Dame, and we brought our system with us from Wisconsin to Arkansas, and realized the things that we did there probably couldn't be done in Arkansas, just a different type of kid, different type of environment, different type of league. So we adjusted a little bit a year later and literally went from one of the worst defenses in the SEC to one of the best. We beat 2 teams back-to-back. I brought in a guy by the name of Rob Smith that we put in the defense that we had run at Iowa and a variation of it, and beat 2 teams that were ranked in the top 10 back-to-back weeks in shutouts. That had never been done in college football. So I kind of really drew to that experience of I've been at my best when we've kind of gone opposite of things I was familiar with. Now, I do say that when I came here, one of the things Ryan and I collaborated on was I didn't want to run what I had been running in the past. I liked what I was doing in the NFL. Ryan had a little bit of a 4-down and 3-down experience at Missouri, so we came here to formulate Illinois. But after 5 years, I think the Illinois that we had been running had become very worn in this league, and that was a driving factor to bring in something that I didn't know, so now I have to learn it. And I'm having a hell of a lot of fun with our players, engaging what this defense is, how it works, moving people in different positions, and the communication aspect. So that was a big part of it.
Coach, talk about moving people. With this new scheme, are you anticipating some guys who are maybe playing standing up, they're going to have to play with their hand on the ground now? Or?
I think there's going to be a wave, right? So there's going to be guys in the corner to become safeties become linebackers become D linemen. I think that's just, and D ends are going to become nose guards, right? So we're still working through all that. We've literally moved some guys around and then moved them back, and it's just really a fun time for the kids to kind of expose, and they think what they have seen or what they have learned is something that they have automatically put back in the shoebox they already knew, but you have to think of it in a new way. And so, I would say even within the 5 weeks of spring ball, you'll probably see some guys move around to different rooms just to find the best fits.
Brett, with Aiden Knappich, just to be clear, when you say medically, he's not playing football anymore beyond
no,
this?
he last year, we expected him to come in and play. We thought we could probably redshirt him, but there was just some overriding, some medical history and some background. He tried his tail off. Even in the bowl game, we had a formation, like I think I've shared with you, that we were going to have 4 sets of brothers on the field at one time. 6 would be impossible, right? I'll get a penalty. But it just he wasn't able to really even practice that last week. So we sat down, had a hard conversation. Not hard. I mean, it was something that he came to. Just unfortunately, when those moments come, it's hard for kids to process that when it comes a little ahead of schedule. So especially with his brother being here, and then his brother goes and plays his tail off in the bowl game. So I know they were looking forward to that moment, but we'll keep him engaged as best we can.
You mentioned guardrails maybe for this current era of college football. There's been reporting of $40 million rosters. That's not maybe the level playing field that you've talked about before.
Yeah.
How do you address that?
Yeah, and it's really kind of even going back to the first year. I remember finding out in retrospect, a year when I was super excited because I thought we had somewhere in the 4 to 5 million range. Teams were operating in 20 million, and I'm like, okay, so Josh and I had some hard conversations and just to get to where we needed to be. And, I was really hoping, and I think everybody else was, when the revenue share conversation came up, everybody's going to be in that 15 to 20. And I think, like I've always said, hey, listen, I don't need to be number 1, but I don't want to be number 18. Kind of like even with our contracts, with coaches' contracts for us, I'm like, just keep me in the upper half, right? So I literally think it's insane, right, that we're talking about a 14 to 15 to $16 million roster and realize that that's not adequate, right? Just because exactly what you're saying, there's teams that have, I think there's quite a few teams in our space in the Big Ten that operate over 30 million. I think there's a couple that work over 35, 40 million. And it again just gets back to it's just, you can get by with a year, maybe 2, but competitively to be able to do that at half the value, it's not going to work. So hopefully we're going to get to a point in time where everybody can just agree to get along and come up with a number, whatever it is. I'm here to play as long as it's all in the same fair game. And hopefully that day is coming sooner than later. And there's some guide rails that don't allow those outliers to exist. But right now they definitely exist. And you see where they are. You see who they are. That's why I think to jump to a 24-team format, just like when it used to be 4. Even pre-NIL, when probably people were NIL and when it wasn't NIL, right? It just opened the window to go to 12, and now you look at 12 and you say, 8 or 9 of those teams probably are in the $35-40 million. There's a reason they're in those games, right? And now if you can open up to 24, it would give that whole other wave of teams that who can probably go toe-to-toe with anybody on any given Saturday. It's just hard to sustain it for 12 games. So I think it just opens up a really level playing field.
This latest legislation with maybe the rules around moving outside of the transfer portal, do you feel like that's going to pass?
Well, I think that was just driven, I'll just tell you because I was sitting in there, what happened at a couple other schools where kids were moving outside of the portal window when they were de-enrolling or, basically called unenrolling and then showing up on other campuses. It just, no one would be comfortable because now there isn't that second portal window. So I have my roster, which I believe all 108 guys that I have slotted to be here are going to be here. If all of a sudden I have 20 guys unenrolled, where are we going to go, right? I can't go get new guys. So this was probably in my career, 18 years. I've been on several national committees since 2007, 2008. I walked out of that meeting room that day and I literally thought that we, for the first time, had done something proactively to help this moment more than ever before, because it was already beginning to happen. Agents and people got involved and were instructing kids how to leave a program at the end of spring and show up on somebody else's campus. So that's what we were trying to nip in the bud.
Brett, I think fans look at Archie's transition from inside to outside linebacker, and fans kind of think, well, that's just a title change. Can you walk us through what has to be in his mind for his change in this new world?
Well, again, one of our rules in this building, when you walk in and walk out, number 3 is, speak for yourself. I don't want to speak on behalf of Archie. Archie's an incredibly gifted linebacker coach. He'll actually coach a position that at one point the linebacker is in the middle of the field, at the middle of the defense, off the ball, playing Mike. And then he'll also coach that same kid to be an off the ball outside linebacker in space. Also coach a guy to be an on the ball outside linebacker over a tight end, over a tackle. So again, kind of like you, right, or people, when you think of this defense, you're thinking it from the terms of the old defenses or what you know. You're not thinking of it in terms of this defense. So I think it makes a lot of sense to our coaches, and especially Archie, after you're in the system, to figure it out.
Coach, you won 19.
Do one more after this one.
19 games the last 2 years. Using the defense you used, you're switching. I guess switching is the right term. You tell me the advantages to moving what you're moving to.
Well, I think three things. Every year I do a self-evaluation of where we've been, and over the last 3 years, we've never been in the top half of really any statistical category that matters. Against a score, that's a big one, right? Big one. Passing off, passing defense. Like it's such a, every sport. It started in the NFL when I was there, and now it's out in college football. It's everybody wants, and I say this, and I mean this: more games are lost than won, and teams that win usually can run the ball, defend the run, and cover kicks. But the ability to defend the pass is a huge deal in today's college football world. And statistically, we just hadn't been great in that arena. And then the third thing, probably the biggest pressing thing, was to give something new to this league that no one else is really like. Our defense structurally was duplicated and replicated, not because of us, I'm just saying in the way the college football gone, by more than 3/4 of the teams in this league, right? And when we first came into the league in 2021 and put this defense in play, there were very few teams who were running it the way we were running. So I just felt after 5 years to change a little direction, to change in the, not only in what we're doing, but how we're aligning and what we're asking our opponents to prepare for is a really big deal.
Staff with the new roles moving around a little bit. What's the advantage of not being limited to that 10 on the field coaches like you used to have?
Huge. And then for me, even like with the final touches, we'll name a couple special teams guys here. So I named Chris, but he's been in the third phase. Literally today on the phone, making some offers and opportunities to people to have the ability to have some of these accessory coaches, right? Like to move. So, for instance, I knew Ronnie was coming in the room. Ronnie, I wanted to work with the safeties, right? And then I was obviously Corey Parker was retaining. So last year, Houston had worked with Corey, and Simo and Myers Henderson had kind of worked with Aaron. So I kept Simo in that room with Ronnie, right? So now Ronnie comes in with the new ideas, thoughts, and perspective, but Simo had been in the room and knows those personnel. On the flip side of it, Corey had stayed in the corner room and knows that personnel good, but Robbie's coming in the room who actually played this position or played the secondary position in this system. So to have those two guys working together on the same room in a new system, like I've never been able to have that before. It's kind of an NFL. So the NFL a lot of times films your meetings. So like when you're in a meeting room, it's very common for NFL teams to film your meeting room. So when a coach removes, the NFL is a much more transient league. Guys move positions, coaches all the time. Coaches remove themselves. Coordinators, obviously, but position coaches. So if the coordinator stays and the system stays, sometimes even the coordinator change and the system still stays, because all of that is videoed, all of that is retained, and you learn from what was been installed before you. This is a way to kind of preemptively go around that. I don't have the ability to film every meeting room while we're here, but I do have the ability to keep people that were in those rooms before in that room, and that's a really big asset.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.